You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Business Wealth Impact. Today we have Sandy Cohan as our guest. Sandy Cohan is an elite mindset coach, author, and speaker, helping athletes and leaders build unshakable focus, dominate pressure, and perform when it matters most. He's also the author of the book, 99 Rules to be Unshakable Under Fire. Welcome, Sandy.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Of course, by the time this drops, it might be well into the new year. Well,
Yeah,
Sandy,
that's right.
yeah. So excited to have you here because I love that you focus on focus. Okay. You focus on focus. How's that? So,
Yeah.
and you're also one of the leading mindset people talking about unshakable focus and how to build that. So let's start digging into how do people even start conceiving of having unshakable focus?
I think the most important part is, so what does focus mean? And I think one of the misconceptions, certainly athletes, business folks, anybody has is this concept of trying to block out, when what focus really is the ability to lock in, right? We're not trying to almost identify those negative what ifs and push them away. We're really trying to be very, very purposeful and intentional about what it is that we want, and then be very, very narrow about that. So I think the biggest challenge is moving away from blocking out and moving into locking in.
Okay. So when you say blocking out what?
So many people, if it was a speaker or if it was an athlete, the thoughts of don't be nervous, don't mess up, the don't do's, right? When the brain, that's not how the brain operates, because the more time we almost invite those thoughts in, we're almost kind of pausing the tape in that place that we don't like and then trying to claw our way out of it. So rather than trying to hone in on what we don't want, a business outcome, a meeting outcome, anything, we want to lock in on those actions and behaviors that when and if we do them, we lead to the outcomes that we want.
Okay. So it's not the don't culture. And actually, there's been a lot of research on that like telling children, don't do that. It's better to
That's
say,
right.
do this, right? Okay.
That's right.
So we're not saying don't do this, don't do that, block. We're saying lock in positive action. Is that correct?
Positive action and also specifics. Specific input leads to specific output. I've never met anybody, certainly no high achievers, that don't deal in specifics. We are a very outcome focused culture. That's fine. But the irony is that the best way to get to the outcomes that you want is really to focus on the controllables, which are the actions and behaviors that lead to those outcomes. So rather than focusing on results, win, lose, make the sale, not make the sale, get promoted, not get promoted, the shift is focusing on those things, actions and behaviors that when and if we do them, give us the best chance to get those outcomes. So that's really what it means. The constant phrase that I use is encouraging people to get narrow and deal in specifics, and to remember that just because you think it doesn't mean that it's true. Thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts aren't facts.
Okay. So you're talking about the lag indicators. I'm sorry,
Yep.
the lead indicators versus
Yep.
the lag indicators, whereas a lot of people just focus on the lag indicator, getting the job, getting the sale, getting this, making money, rather than the lead indicators, which are the actions towards that give you a better chance of achieving.
Yep. They're the ingredients, right? So everything has to fall into one of three buckets, right? You can either control it, you can impact it, or you have to let it go. The
Mm.
challenge is that we spend so much of our time in the outcomes that lead to the impact, right? Like we can impact a business meeting, a sales call, a sporting event. We can have impact over those things, but we can't control the outcomes. The controllables are belief, attitude, grit, focus, emotional control, discipline, self-awareness. That's where the intentional focus should be.
Now, how many did you just mention? Were there 7 there?
So there's 7. Yep. But
And
so
could
in my
you mention those again? What are the 7?
yep. So the big 7 in my world, we have belief, attitude and grit,
Mhm.
focus, emotional control, discipline, self awareness. In my world of mindset, and I say mindset
Mhm.
strategically, not mental performance. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people use those interchangeably. I don't,
Mhm.
because I think the insinuation is that somebody is broken. I don't
Mhm.
know how they would know how to do any of these things if not taught or shown. So mindset really is the foundation. So I believe that the ability to control and manage those 7 entities, that determines outcome and mindset.
Okay, interesting. There's a map here. There's 7 things. You want to control them and you get a good outcome. It's kind of simple in a way if we just apply it, right?
Yeah, and so many folks that have a process, 5 steps to this, and very much the work that I do. e- Every everybody is asking, what is that secret sauce? And while that is insanely important, one of the differentiators that I think really leads to success is there is work before the work. Like getting to that door and then going through it, that is the pathway, I think, to achievement, success, happiness, all those things. But the other big piece is what's the what's the starting point? And
Mm.
so many of us, we're humans, we carry around that shame or embarrassment. You don't know what it was like for me. It's I can't just get up and don't quit. Like all those things are relevant, but there is a tremendous amount of work, I think, that has to be done before the work. And then I think really the process becomes very manageable, very empowering. But a lot of it is, we have to move into that place where we are truly able to measure gains, not gaps.
Okay, the work before the work. What is that tremendous amount of work before the work?
So much of it is dealing with the here and now. We are, I think a lot of times we think we are defined by the past, but right now has to be the most important moment.
Mm.
You are where your feet are, and for so many of us, um, we carry the weight of past losses or even kind of past successes, but the past. And that really kind of weighs us down and prevents us from even getting to the place where we are able to work on our grit, our willingness to do hard things, or our belief, or our focus. So a lot of that work before the work is identifying what is it that is preventing us from actually kind of being here and now, and letting that go.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that it's not a part of the backstory, but it doesn't define the future. And that's a really big deal.
It is a big
Athletes go
deal.
through that all the time. I mean, everybody, leaders, everybody.
Mm. It is a big deal. And I say to my clients, all we have is what we have right now, right in this moment. It's right
Yeah.
now. The present is really all we have. And oops, 2 seconds later, that's the past already. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And it's classic that people are held back by their past. This is not new in psychology. So really, if we could just get ourselves to the present moment and say, this is all I have. What do I do? That might be key.
Yeah, and it's a one of the resets that I constantly chat about with the people that I work with, or on stages, is this concept of now what. Whatever, however bad we think it might be, that reframe is, well, what now, or now
Mm.
what. because that really is, the most important. We have to get away from the there or the over there
Mm,
and really be right here, right now, right?
mm,
Because it's okay, that may have happened. Now what? It
mm,
doesn't mean that we didn't experience it, but you know, now what? Like
mm.
that has to bring it back to the current moment.
Right, because we are always thinking about when things get better or when
That's
I
right.
do that, right? But something interesting happened to me. I realized that what I was going for happened, and I was so happy about it. And I was able to say to myself, wow, that worked. And look how great things are. And I think that that ability, that we need that ability, or we're just always going to the next thing. So I'm very thankful and grateful to report that I'm living in bliss right now, because I'm not always, of course, I'm always going to be, putting my best, and there's always something new. But I understood that we've got to be in the present moment. We've got to be grateful for the progress we have made, or we're never going to be happy people. Okay. So, and there is improvement, and it's not always, oh, well, it's not good. If you are aware you did some work and things are a lot better, and wow, actually, I can actually say that. That was a revelation to me. Do you
And
know what I'm saying?
yes, you know why I love that. And so I was like this when I was younger in my background in sports. I was I always thought that I was an achiever. Always a lot of stuff going on, academics, athletics, driving. And I think from the outside, that looked like um, running towards something. As I got older and really kind of got deeper into this work and trying to lead others and have impact, I realized that that wasn't the case for me, that I was really running away from a lot of things. I was still moving,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a different fuel, and that's not sustainable, right? Because
Mm,
eventually you run out of gas. So I think for a lot of times, achievers who maybe don't have that foundation, or people that say, this isn't really relevant for me, but when we start peeling back some layers, I think it's pretty easy to tell that maybe their sights aren't even being set high enough, and everything that they have achieved or accomplished, it's really the product of running away from things rather than running towards other things. It's a very
mm.
fine line.
Interesting. So anyway, I was pleased, because I felt like, am I never going to be happy or satisfied? And I think it was, I hadn't reached a level yet where I couldn't be. And then I thought,
Yep.
wow, this actually is better. And I can say things are different and better, which I was surprised by, because it's always been like more, just get more,
Yeah,
right?
and one of the biggest markers is, I think, at some point for you there was a switch that was flipped. And whenever that moment was, if I asked you at that moment, what does success look like?
Mm,
You would have been able to define it.
mm,
For so many people, high performers, executives, athletes, whatever it is, when I interact with them, and it's, they don't know something is wrong. It's just maybe things aren't as good as they could be. Something is off. They
mm,
can't put their finger on it. A lot of times early on, we're kind of able to narrow it down, because I say, well, just help me understand, for you, what does success even look like? What
mm,
does that mean? And you'd be surprised. I'm sure you deal with this in your work. Very few people are able to define it.
mhm,
It doesn't have to be X amount of money or X amount of this or that, but there has to be a direction. So much of, I think, that not feeling satisfied, not feeling confident or believing in yourself is like, well, we're in the car. The car is ready to go. It's a great car. There's a full tank of gas. The car is clean, but it's like, where are we going?
mm,
Right. And without that destination, how can we celebrate progress? How can we analyze results? How can we refocus, reassess? So at some point, for a lot of people, just being able to identify, well, help me understand what success means for you,
mhm,
or in this line of work, or in this athletic event, whatever it is. Because once there's a marker, once there's a target, then it's full steam ahead. But without that target,
Right. Well, you just explained the target is they have no real purpose.
That's right.
It's always purpose. If you have no purpose, I'm not criticizing because it's really hard to figure out our purpose. We think that goals are purposes, but actually they're goals until you figure out your deeper purpose and until you start making moves towards that. And part of our purpose is to be good parents and provide well. That's part of our purpose, and that's valuable. Making money is valuable. And most high achievers, we want to see a certain amount of money coming in or we feel like we're failing, right? As well. And the number varies for different people. There was this book called The Psychology of Money, and the guy who wrote the book was saying that, that what was it? The guy, the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates. He said Bill Gates would jump out a window if he only had as much money as Oprah, because it's all relative, right?
That's right.
Okay. Now let's
one last thing on that. I think a lot of times when the shift comes, it's about perspective, and you just kind of said it. And I think that we are very much trained to think, glass half full, glass half empty. And I that's relevant. And I think a lot of change can happen when we flip that switch and we move from glass half empty to glass half full. But I think a common trait in high performers is that there's a third lane, and they look at it as, well, the glass is refillable. I don't know if it's half empty or half full, but I can just walk over to the sink and refill it. Right. And that's a mindset shift. The glass is refillable.
It's an abundance mindset.
There's no ceiling. Yeah. There's no ceiling.
Right. And it's funny. I never understood the glass half empty, half full. I mean, yes, I understand what it means, but I never understood that people think that way. And I thought, why do we have to think about it half empty or half full? Why even think about it at all that way? Maybe because I believe in the abundance thing. Just fill the freaking glass up, again and again. Yep. Because we can renew, we can reinvent ourselves millions of times, hundreds and hundreds if we want. And I think that's the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, because that's what you're talking about, the fixed.
That's right.
And the growth is pouring more growth, abundance. Okay. Now, I'd love to ask you about confidence, because that's something that I think a lot about. I coach on, actually. I hear a lot of different theories, and I've gone down this confidence rabbit hole in the past. And I've come to the conclusion that one should not do a lot of work on being confident, because doing a lot of work on being confident is futile. Because what creates confidence is actually being successful at things, whether they're small or large. So my take on it was always, no, don't sit around just being confident, because how am I going to build confidence unless I'm taking actions that work? And that builds confidence. So my mojo has always just been, forget about the confidence building and just take a step. What do you believe about all that?
Everybody at some point or another chases this. How do I become more confident? And just like you said, they are actively trying to have that feeling. I agree with you 100%. I wish that I came up with this. I didn't, but someone told this to me ages and ages and ages ago, a coach, and I've never forgotten it, that the way to look at the confidence / belief prism is, if you think about a tree outside, what you see above ground, that's confidence. What you don't see below ground, that's belief. So in that example of the tree, no roots, no tree, no belief, no confidence. So I think for a lot of people that I work with, I try to present the concept that confidence is a place where we end up when we tap into belief. I can make anybody feel confident very, very quickly. But like you said, yes, it's tapping into belief, what you have done before, past successes. I can in the future because I did in the past. And a lot of times I think, kind of shoot ourselves in the foot and are just chasing, like that fake motivation, when really I think it's a discipline relationship, that when we tap into belief, the feeling we get is a feeling of confidence.
Okay. Because the other thing is the motivation. I don't feel particularly motivated often, but I do stuff anyway.
Motivation fades, discipline builds.
Okay, so I agree with you. If you don't believe, it's a false confidence. That's just that fake. Oh, I'm so confident. Yeah. So how do people build belief then? We want to build the roots, so the roots create a strong tree. How do people get? Because that is a problem. They don't really believe in their subconscious or conscious minds that they're going to make it, that they're worthy, that they're, and the biggest thing I keep coming across is, well, they call it, imposter syndrome, but there is no such thing as imposter syndrome, because how can a human being be an imposter of themselves? So it doesn't even make sense. So let's just take that label off and let's just say, okay, it's a lack of belief and they got a lot of self-doubt going on, right? How can someone who does not believe they have it, that they're, and not that they're special, because one should not believe they're special, because then everybody's not special. That's a me or them thing, right? So let's forget about being special and having, sunshine shine all over you when you were born because you're the chosen one. Let's just talk
Hmm.
about, right? Because that's a problem if we think we're the chosen and we're special and you're not, because there's another whole discussion about we're alone then if we're special, right? And if I'm special, that means, Sandy, you're not special, because we can't all be special, right? And I think there is this belief that we have to be special to be a success in life and to believe in ourselves. So how can we believe in ourselves without having to believe that we're special or better than other people?
I think one of the things that you just defined, probably not knowing, is the difference between the words awareness and focused. And I think what you just described is awareness. And I
Mm.
was challenged by this ages and ages ago. I would say that awareness is like looking out of a window. Hey, there's the neighbor, there's a bird. Oh my gosh, it's so sunny outside. Like, that's awareness. That's not focus.
Mm.
Focus would be like looking into a mirror. So part of what you just said is a lot of trying to convince yourself based on external factors. I'm not saying that we should be hyping ourselves up and being outwardly cocky, but being inwardly sure is different from being inwardly cocky.
Mm.
And belief comes from sureness. A lot of it is thinking patterns. So many people, I think, that are challenged with confidence. One of the biggest things is that they are the first people to really kind of deal in negative self-talk.
Mm.
Everybody kind of talks about this, but if you would not, whatever the thought is, oh, that was the worst ever. Oh God, I'm the worst. Oh, I can't believe I just did that. That was the dumbest email I sent, or that was the worst thing. If you wouldn't say it to somebody else, you cannot think it to yourself, right?
Mm.
How we look at ourselves and view ourselves is a big, big deal. So I think we have to shift away from awareness and get into focus. But it's a lot of I am, I can, I do statements. And how much of our lives do we really spend working on those, where we are reminding ourselves versus trying to convince ourselves? When we are
Mm.
trying to convince ourselves, we're already starting from a place of not believing. So
Right.
really
It's a weakness.
shifting. That's right. That's right.
Mm.
And shifting to reminders, I am, I can, I do. You literally chop off the whole like negative tail. It's all of a sudden we're not looking over there anymore. We're totally focused there. It's completely different. So I think a lot of it is, what is the self impression? That's a
Mm.
huge one.
Okay. Now, what do you say? Now, there's a lot of people suffering out there because things aren't going their way. And, I come across a lot of these people, and we all do. And it seems like most people aren't confident, and most people don't believe in themselves. And most people aren't really living, when you look at it, it's kind of sad. Most people are not living the life they want. And as you said, they don't even know what they want. They just know they don't want to feel that way anymore. I think it's just they don't want to feel this way. So, what would you say to somebody who has not does not experience self-confidence or belief? What's the first thing to do?
Those people, just in a conversation, they will tell me what they're not good at, where their flaws are. I could just say, tell me how things are going. not as good as I wanted. I didn't want this. It could always be better. So, perspective shapes mindset. So how you even are looking at situations, relationships, employee connections, anything, how you look at all of that really matters. So I think anybody that is kind of truly suffering about what they don't have or what they haven't accomplished, the first thing is we really have to shift to, well, tell me what it is that you do want. You
Mm,
keep painting the picture about what it is that you don't want, the
mhm,
conditions that you don't want to live in, the business that you don't want to run, the impressions that you don't want to give off to other people. Well, let's start defining and shaping what is the character, who is the character that you want to be. Like
mm,
let's outline that. Let's give it shape. How does that person talk? What are their relationships like? How do they interact with their family? Are they spiritual? I don't know. What are their habits? Because once we really kind of start getting into the ingredients, I think then it's very, very easy to start moving forward. The goal isn't the concept of grit. I'll say this, grit. I love this word more than anything. I think grit and focus are the two most important characteristics. And grit, I would define as the willingness to do hard things, right? Angela Duckworth, great book on the
mhm,
power of grit. The willingness to do hard things, the getting up after, falling down. But I think really it's realizing that the goal is just to win the day,
mm,
right? Like today matters because eventually when you add up all of the todays, that's when you get to achieve what you want. But we're not grinding today because we're going to necessarily win tomorrow. That's not the goal. So there has to be passion, perseverance for long-term goals. So,
mm.
so many people, I think we have to really start to get to the place where let's measure gains, talk about the good, stop trying to tell me about the bad.
Mm, for sure. And I agree with the breaking it into units of a day or even a half day, because we're not going to win every day, but we just want to chalk them up. We want to say, okay, this,
Win the
this,
next minute. Win the
this win
next
the
minute.
next minute, right? But I think we also should not write off days. Oh, this is a bad day. This started off bad. This is going to be a whole bad day. We've really got to break it down into smaller and smaller units that, well, that was a good hour. That was a good morning, you know?
And based on what, right? Like I always
Mm,
ask people, I just say, wait, if they say something like that, I say, well, based on what? I
mm,
don't know if it was a good day or a bad day, but get me into your mind. Like what, when you say it was kind of good, not that, like
mm,
based on what? If a lot of times when we just deal with the actual meat and potatoes of the actual facts of the situation, I don't know if it's bad. It sounds like you're saying it's bad, but compared to what? You know?
right. I think I know what it is. I think it's about how we feel. If something happens and we have a bad feeling, that feeling creates a shadow of that's not a good day.
Yep.
Even though something good might have happened, like maybe somebody gets a great client and they're happy, oh, okay, for a minute, and then something bad happens. Somehow the bad always dilutes the color of the day into gray because rather than, you know what, I had a pretty darn good day because this, and this happened, which were great. But then one thing that I didn't like and I call bad happened, the day is bad. So
That's exactly right.
I feel like we really need to evaluate the instance, because one bad feeling can creep through the whole day rather than saying that didn't feel good, but that did not make my day bad, which I do actually, but most people cannot do that. I've realized that. It's just, oh, the day was bad. Why was it? Oh, because that happened. But what good happened? Well, this
That's
good
right.
happened. So the whole day wasn't bad, was it? Well, no, but then that colored it and got me in a bad mood. That's because you allowed it to get into a bad mood. Ah, so there's the grit. I'm also huge on grit. I used to speak on grit and resilience, probably because of
Yep.
my background, because I went through a lot of hard stuff. I was gritty, and look at me now. That doesn't
Yep.
mean that I've arrived and nothing's hard now. But there's the crux of the matter. It is hard for human beings to do hard stuff because they'd rather sleep in. It's easier. They'd rather just watch Netflix the whole time. I'm not knocking people that watch some Netflix, but the whole time. And it's easier to not make efforts with losing weight or working on the relationships or going the extra mile to get a better job or to work more efficiently. So how do we get past people that inertia? Because that's the problem, I believe.
So for those same people, I would encourage them to come up with controllable actions and behaviors. Don't tell me about the outcomes. Stop telling me about the things that the challenges. It's hard to lose weight. It's hard to bring food to work every day. It's hard to, market my business. All of that stuff might be relevant. I'm not dismissing anybody's challenges, but I know that feeling that you talked about, as human beings, we feel more empowered, in control when we are talking about progress and when we can make lists and start crossing things off. Momentum, right? Momentum starts to build. So at some point for everybody, they have to remember that every day when they wake up, they need to start rolling that ball down the hill. And it requires effort. It gets easier, but it does require momentum. It requires actions. It requires clarity. It requires focus. And I have not met many people that when and if those become the intangibles, those become the ingredients, it's almost impossible not to end up with the cake that you're trying to bake. I was just making something last week. I was trying to make something for the holidays. I'm not a baker. And if I just focused on, gosh, I need to make this cake, this final product, I just followed the ingredients. Add the sugar to the milk to the eggs. And where I ended up was this cake. But I didn't set out to make the cake. I just started following the ingredients. Step 1, step 2.
You took one step in front of the other.
That's right.
I think what we're thinking about is the whole picture rather than, okay, I want to lose weight. So therefore I'm going to set my foot on a treadmill, 1 foot. I think that's the problem. I've seen this in coaching with most people I've coached. They're too much into overthinking the whole end game rather than just take that one step forward. Then you can take another step. They could just focus. And I love that you talk about focus because I talk about this a lot as well. Just focus on the present moment and the one little thing you're going to do. You know that saying, the trip to 1,000 miles is the first way to 1,000 miles.
That's it.
What's that saying?
That's it. Yeah.
The way to get to 1,000 miles is taking the first step, right?
Yeah. That's
right.
That's the power of today and winning the next minute, getting 1% better every day. I talk about this all the time. So many people will ask me, what's the key to having a good game? These professional athletes that I work with or whatever. And we're both talking metrics of time, but they're talking about the total. And I'm saying, what the secret is? You go out and you have a great first shift. Then you get back to the bench. Then you go out and do it again. And they're like, oh, no, I understand. And I said, no, like you have to hear this, right? Like the way you get to the good fill in the blank is by one step at a time because every step does matter. But when we are thinking black and white, win, loss, did we get the raise, not the raise? Like that's really kind of diminishing like 99% of the stuff that we actually can control. Like what if the goal was, we just need to get 1% better every day. In 30 days, one could make the case like you're 30% better.
Right. Amazing.
It's just one day at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. So Sandy, what's one mindset or philosophy or thought that you would like to leave people with?
I think the most important one, and I mentioned it earlier, is I would encourage people to measure gains, not gaps. And the greatest analogy, let's say you and I were going out and we're hiking up a mountain. It's a 2-mile hike. And we get a mile up and I'm looking down going, gosh, look how far we've come. And you're looking up going, look how much further we still have to go. Like literally, we're both in the exact same place, but it's just a perspective change.
Right.
And, when we start measuring gains there really isn't a lot of space for the negative. The brain wants specifics. So let's talk about gains.
Love it. Okay, so the gain, not the gap. Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
And
you. Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
welcome. If you want to hear more about Sandy, it's all going to be in the show notes, and he's got some special gift for you there. So hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and we'll see you on the next episode. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.